I'm a huge advocate for serendipity and showing up and doing it in your way and not being scared to get on a plane, even if the flight's 12 hours for one meeting. You might not get anything out of it, but you never know, we might get something massive out of it. It takes one person, one person listening, one person to change your life or your business forever.
Welcome to the B2B Breakthrough Podcast. We're here to bring you all the best knowledge, insights, and strategies from e-commerce experts, successful business owners, and the team at Alibaba.com that you'll need to grow your business and achieve your next big breakthrough. I'm your host, Sierra Cristo. Welcome back to B2B Breakthrough. We're here for a little bit of a different format today. We're chatting with Jake Carls in person. He is the co-founder and chief rainmaker of Midday Squares, and we're going to talk through all things going D2C in the food space and how to integrate that into your marketing strategies as a food-based business. So, Jake, tell us a little bit more about what you do.
Oh, I love it. First of all, chief rainmaker, coolest title.
Absolutely.
I think I want to go into that because I think some people are like, "What is that? That sounds strange. It sounds like a different type of position," and it is. So I'm 31 years old. I started a chocolate bar company with my sister and my brother-in-law, and the idea was, how do we become one of the most trusted afternoon brands in the better for you space in the afternoon snacking? So imagine that moment at 2 p.m. when you're hungry and you want something that will carry you through. That's what we tried to create, but in the better for you, good ingredients, all that stuff. And before even starting, my whole life, I've been a person that loves storytelling, loves community building, making as much noise as possible using internet and all that stuff. Because I'm really a huge advocate of bringing people together, whatever it is, whether it's a product or whether it's an event or whether it's something like that. I know that stories bring emotionality and emotionality brings people to connect. So basically, before I was even doing Midday Squares, I was throwing parties on college campuses. I was, doing little pop-up shop experiences, selling clothing. And the common trait was I was building brands that had some sort of community behind it. So when I ended up closing my second business, my sister and brother-in-law approached me and they're like, "Hey, do you want to join us on this chocolate bar business?" And I looked at them and I said, "No." And the reason why I said no was because the world doesn't need another bar, another health bar, another chocolate bar. And, if you look at a store, whether it be in physical or even on D2C online, there's a lot of brands and there's a lot of competition, and you can't just expect to win by putting out a great product. Unfortunately, you need more than great product. You need great storytelling. You need to be able to get awareness. You need to be able to connect people. So I looked at them and I said, it's going to be way too hard to climb up this mountain. I believe in you guys, but I don't think I'm going to join. And they pushed me in a good way. They're like, "I think you should join." So I ended up saying, "You know what, screw it, let's do it." And I said to my role at the time was CMO and founder, and I basically said, I don't want to be a CMO. After 8 months of that, and I said I wanted to do something that I was actually really good at. And what I was really good at was making friends for the brand, building the network. So making it rain. That's where the rainmaker comes. I don't make it rain in products. I make it rain in relationships. And whether that be sales, marketing, media, being the face, being on, all this stuff. I do that every day. I travel the world. I get to meet people like yourself and doing cool things like this. And it allows for the brand to get more awareness, more noise, but also bring people to help be part of our organization, whether that be a service, whether that be a new team member, whether it be an investor. So yeah, I live out of a suitcase and in a 4-wall hotel room, and I live in a lot of transportation. So that's my life.
I have so many questions for you about this model, about everything that you and your co-founders have been doing. What I really like about everything that I've read about Midday Squares and everything that you all have been doing is how integrated that storytelling is into the product itself, into the distribution model that you've cultivated. So can you talk to me a little bit about what this D2C model has done for you as a storytelling brand, as this community brand?
So when we started, we weren't selling anywhere, right? We weren't selling in physical retail. We were just 3 people with not a big social media following. And we just basically said, how can we get people to try this product? So what we did is we created this D2C component, which website, and we started selling samples. So not full price. And we wanted people to just try the product. So we did it obviously at, I think it was 25 cents at the time, crazy for a bar. And these bars cost a lot to make. And it wasn't about losing capital on the product. It was about getting people that were serious to try it. So they still have to put down their credit card and actually commit. They weren't just freeloaders on samples. And what that did was it created an opportunity to get people to try, but also have touch points with them. So basically what we did was every customer that ordered on the sample, we sent them a personalized photo of the three of us with a handwritten note. Even though it took a lot of time, it was not scalable. We still do it, but in a different way now. But we had a handwritten note about you. Let's say you bought it. We would find something about you, write about it, and then you would see and be like, wow, this brand is so personalized. It's so humanized. How could you not want to cheer them on? And so we did that for months. And the idea was just get trial and get people talking using storytelling. And we actually hand delivered product at the beginning because we couldn't afford shipping. So it really wasn't a feasible model, but basically it got hype and it got people talking and it started some sort of awareness naturally. And as we were doing that, the way we got more people was we simply just took out our phones and we started filming everything. And we just started documenting as if we were producers or we were like a documentary, and we want to share everything that happened. So when people started to see this story of being like, hey, like these are three people that are building a food company, and I get to watch the hustle of the behind the scenes, it's like, I want to be part of what they're doing. I want them to win, or I don't like them and I don't want to buy their products. But most people were like, these are underdogs and we want to support them. So they became part of the journey by just watching. And as soon as they watched, eventually they'd want to buy. So we just kept on doing that. And the D2C kept on growing and growing and growing. The views went up, the sales went up, and the storytelling was the ability to get people to be interested. And then once they were interested, what ended up happening was product market fit had to kick in. People had to, once they bought the product, they have to be like, oh, I want to eat this again. So I always say to people, product market fit will get people to stay. Your storytelling, and especially in a D2C business, will allow for people to come to your site, to come to your program or whatever you're offering and be interested. But if you're going to sell people on features and benefits, like we could have told people we had 6 grams of protein, 4 grams of fiber, that's not relevant to people because it doesn't interest them on an emotional level. Today, more than ever, people crave authenticity, but also crave some sort of emotional connection to brands. They want to care about what they're purchasing. So what we did was just use that of documentary style and quotations of content, and it drove thousands and then now millions of people to try the product.
That's huge. And you're based in hotel rooms all around the world.
I loyalty.
But as a brand, you're based in Montreal.
We manufacture everything in Montreal. Yeah.
Everything is manufactured there and distributed from there.
From there, shipped all over.
Amazing. So how has that community building been on a city by city basis? Like, is there like a Canadian pride behind the brand that has really helped to drive the momentum or anything?
Definitely, that has helped. I think the strategy we took early on, before we even went to physical retail, was we went city by city. So we actually went to our local city, which is Montreal, and we basically built as much awareness that was relevant to that city. Mm-hmm. So we would learn culture. We would learn different things that like we could talk about on social media. We would go down in the big park of the city and give out free samples and film that process. That way people knew and they felt that energy. Once we felt that we were ready to move on to the next city, we would move on to the next city. But it took time. We would build out the city. We would actually sell to local retail. We would build the D2C component. We'd work with creators in local cities to help spread the word. Until that was matured or ready, we would then go to the next city, do it at the next city, then the next city. And then it would take a lot of time, but at the end of the day, you build depth. Mm-hmm. And then people start to know who you are. So again, very based on storytelling, but also being in the city physically. We would actually travel city by city and do things, events. We would show up at local things that were being, in the community and support that, sponsor them. And we'd also work with local creators around each city that we went to. And then now it's more nationwide and multiple countries that we sell into. So the marketing's a little bit different. But when we started, especially when we were D2C, we would literally hype up the city by working with local creators and being part of local events and stuff like that. And that actually worked because people would then see it and be like, I know that person talking about it. I see it here. I want to buy the product.
We were just talking about some of the now retail opportunities that you've had, and how has your D2C origins morphed over time to being more retail based, and has that loyal following of folks who felt so connected to you and still feel connected to you? How has that helped you land those opportunities?
100%. So the D2C is where we started, and that's where we drove. We still drive almost 30% of our business through D2C, and it's never going to go away. And I think it might even go up even more over time. But we knew that from a logistics standpoint, we needed to get retail, and we need to start selling single products because in our D2C, they're boxes, which is a higher ticket item. Even for value, it's still a higher ticket in terms of dollar value. So some people might just want to try one bar at a time. And logistically, it was too hard to do a D2C with one bar without losing tremendous amounts of capital. So we did that at the beginning with the samples, but then we stopped it after like 3 or 4 months once we started getting momentum. Now, our D2C is for a lot of the loyal base that loves Midday Squares and wants to buy, almost like on repeat, nonstop, to have it always in their fridges because we sell in the fridge. And what retail allowed us to do was touch a lot of other people that would have never bought that ticket item on the website because it might have been too expensive or too pricey at the time. So when they go to a local retailer, in whatever city they're in, they have a chance to try one. And that allows them, for the price of $249 typically, they're able to buy the bar. And they either like it or they don't. But what translated from the D2C side, which we use for our entire business, and the mindset is basically used on a D2C component, is we're still competing for shelf space. There is limited eyes, limited attention. And if you want to win in this world, you need to be able to break through the attention economy. I think as I'm paraphrasing, maybe Gary Vee said this. But basically, attention's become so valuable. And if you're going to build a business today, it doesn't matter what you're in. It could be commodities, could be chocolate bars like us, could be services. What you need to do is be able to get people's attention if you want to win. You can't just force people to pay attention. You have to earn the right, the privilege to communicate with them. So how do you do that? You don't do that by talking about your features or your benefits or the commoditized things. You do it by making people feel something. And the way to make people feel something is just tell a story, because our brains are wired to process storytelling. Our brains are wired to understand stories and interpret things through stories. That when you go home at night and you speak to your family or your friends, you're like, how was your day? You're telling a story. So businesses need to be on the same level playing field in terms of humanizing and storytelling as we do in our daily life, just as friends, right? And I think what we did really well was we took that mindset and we applied it to retail. That way, when people went to the stores, they felt like they were buying from a friend because they knew us. They were friends with us. Our stories were talking about a machine breaking down and how we couldn't ship out and we got fined XYZ dollars and almost put us out of business. You see the emotions, right? You see the authenticity strike, and that makes you feel closer to our brand. So that's what we did. We built it like that, and that still is the strategy. And it's now 70% retail, it's 30% D2C, and they're the same marketing. Other than pricing and promo strategies, it's the same, or more or less, marketing to drive the people to the stores or to online, to our website, and sell products.
Wow. I mean,
it's all based on great storytelling, authentic storytelling.
Yeah, well, and it's sharing that vulnerability. It's
most important. Stories are useless without that. And I'll tell you why. If I told you only good things 24/7, you'd be like, oh, that's cool. And then eventually you'd be like, it's not reality. And I think where we won was we showed you the good, the bad, and then the ugly. Yeah. And it wasn't for marketing purposes. It was to actually show you what it looks like to build a business. Yeah. And when you see the good and the bad, you're like, wait, I relate to this both on the good side and I go through this on the bad side. So I feel really close to this brand because they're doing it different than every other company, which typically writes just the most perfect things, right? And we live in a world today, whether we like it or not, that's people crave authenticity. They crave human connection. How do you do that? You just be yourself. Or if you're a big organization, you live by your values, and that will strike through as authentic because you're living true to what this company was built on. And you don't have to be like Midday Squares and share everything. That's not what I'm saying to anybody, because a lot of businesses won't do that. You don't need a front-facing character or person, but you need to be able to tell good stories that are authentic to whatever the business represents.
You've really bucked tradition. You said, we're going to do this our way. This is our approach to marketing. It's our approach to storytelling. And this happens to be our product. But why is this and I'm asking you to speculate a little bit here, but why is this not a more adopted model by brands, especially in the food? Fear.
Yeah. Well, the food space specifically, let's nail that. So think about it. A lot of the food businesses sell traditional retail, limited space. You're one of 30 to 40,000 products on a shelf, and people have limited time to shop. They're not shopping 6 hours a day. They're going in and they want to get convenience, or their products usually looking for listed items. So if you're a new brand, you're barely going to stand out. It doesn't matter how good your product is. If people don't know anything about it, they may not ever pick it up, whether it's pricing, architecture problems, or just no marketing put behind it. So I think that what's missing is traditionally what worked in retail was the old school marketing, where it's like, features, benefits, we've got less sugar than XYZ. And maybe that would matter at the time, or we're on promo for 30% off, come by it to try it, or demoing, which still works to a certain extent, I think a lot less than the online strategy. I think what we did was we said, if we want to do it different and make noise, how do we stand out from the crowd? Be loud online, be real. And that way people will then look for your product in store, even if it's in the back of the store. They'll come in and be like, where's Midday Squares? I like that brand. I'm trying to find it. They'll put intention behind shopping. Now, why do brands not do it? Or why are they slow to adopt it? Because some have done it and they're doing a great job. And kudos to them. They're taking risks. They're bold. I think the biggest thing is fear. And it comes back to human nature, where we as humans are fearful of failing in public. We're fearful of judgment. And when you do things differently, it's uncomfortable. Some people aren't ready to do it. Every business that exists has done something different to create their business. And at first, it's always a little weird or it's a little strange or they don't want to purchase. But then over time, it starts to get, wait, I'm more familiar with that. I'm more familiar with that. And then they buy the product. Mm-hmm. So I think that same thing goes with the storytelling is people are a little bit fearful of sharing something that's not about the features or the benefits because that seems safe. But in the end, what's actually more safe is to connect to the consumer. Mm-hmm. So it's more of a risk that you just commodities and features and benefits because you're spending capital to do that. But it's not, the attention's not even there on the consumer. Why not try to get on the same level playing field with them or the same, wavelengths and tell them something that matters to them?
I think between having the engaging, social presence and the vulnerability well put out there, you've paired that with packaging and branding that feels connected to that tone and feels it's very vibrant and noticeable on the shelves and online. And so how have you cultivated the brand visually alongside of your tonal marketing plan?
So I'll give it to my sister. So okay. She's my business partner. She's also a creative director. She designed the packaging with her team. And what she wanted to get out of it was not traditional food. So she basically said she went through the grocery stores and online and D2C businesses and looked at everything. And she wanted to basically bring a lifestyle-esque to the grocery stores or to the online component, but basically being more like a shoebox. So like when you look at our box, it looks more like a shoebox. Mm-hmm. That way we're kind of blending from some of the other worlds like fashion or even beauty and bringing it into the traditional food and beverage world. And that sets you apart. So then, it's less focused on, again, blowing up the certifications and things that typically food companies will do on the front of their package and making it more like sexy, more fun. And people are then like, oh, whoa, what is that? And they look and it's different to them, right? It's combining other worlds, taking what you love from other worlds and bringing it to your world. And we're not perfect, far from it. And we're learning every day and we're changing the package as we go. But one thing I can tell you is it's different than typical other products that are on the shelf because they follow the typical food and beverage playbook. And I think that there's nothing wrong with that. But I think if you want to have a chance to win, you don't have unlimited resources, you got to be different. And that's part of our story. We're bold. Our whole mission is to show people in the world that you can build whatever you want or you can win whatever you want by just being you and leaning into your superpowers. So being different on the shelf too is a sense of being bold. And that's part of our values, right? So you're right. It does align on the story. Even the tones, the colors, all that stuff is all intentional.
Some of what you're able to pick up on and finding out what works and that trial and error, which is a huge part of business ownership in any category for any business owner. But what's really intuitive about what you all have built is how hands-on it has been from a manufacturing perspective, local in Montreal. And you brought your packing in-house as well. Is that Everything. Correct? So what fueled that decision to really keep it tight?
Oh, you nailed it. This is a critical for food and beverage companies. A lot of them will have third-party manufacturers, and it makes sense. By the way, you build a product. Some people have the machines and the know-hows to do it. They can scale it for you, and then you focus on growth, sales, innovation. Great stuff. Businesses should focus on that. We tried that. So early on, we were making in our condo kitchen, and to get out of our condo can making, we looked at co-manufacturers across the world, everywhere. And the problem with our product, or the good thing about our product, it could be a problem or a good thing, is when we went to these co-mans, 26 of them, they didn't know how to make this bar. They're like, we need to change it X, Y, Z, textures, layers. Their machines just weren't feasible for this. It requires different types of know-how. So we had two options: change the product and fit in, which is fine, which a lot of people do, or build our own factory, which we had no money. We luckily found capital to invest in this and get that going. But basically, we chose that. My sister came back one day and she said, "We're not going to a co-manufacturer. We're keeping it the way we make it our home. We're going to scale this to a product. If we could take people to space, we can make the chocolate bar, right?" And that's what we did. We ended up spending 2.5 years building this first line out that we built. And what that did was, yes, it allowed us to keep innovation alive and, margin and all that stuff. But it was the hardest thing we've ever done. And it allowed for our story to tell a lot of the adversity side.
Yeah.
We talked about the good, the bad, the ugly. The bad and the ugly came from a lot of the ops problems that we had. So it also leaned into the storytelling component, right? And now we're about to go expand that line and build a second line to triple the output. And that's another 20 to 24 month process that's coming in.
Interesting. And so you mentioned that this phase, this, the ops side of it is what really brought the bad and the ugly into your storytelling. Did you ever reach a moment where you second guessed, why are we doing this? How did we get here?
Yeah,
Can we shut it down?
30 plus times. So, I think cried ourselves to sleep. Why are we doing it? Big questions. My partners are my sister and my brother-in-law. They're married. They almost got divorced because they were, the manufacturing was causing so much problems. They were working together on it. They didn't get divorced. They solved it. They worked through it. And it was great. They're killing it. But manufacturing, and I respect any manufacturer out there, it is really hard. And it's not just like you put something and something comes together. There's a lot of brilliance. There's a lot of machinery. There's a lot of humans that are making this work. And one thing can cause a domino effect to go the other way. And countless amounts of times where our chocolate machine, for example, broke. What makes it worth it every time is going to why we do it. And seeing people enjoy these things, millions of people around the world enjoying midday squares every day. And also talking about how they love watching us and they're inspired. And they started a business because we were bold, and they had permission to be bold. That should never be a permission. You could always do it. So I think that's what brings us back to like, this is all worth it. And at the end, being able to see a product go from zero, nothing, to literally leaving a facility and landing in a shelf in where we are right now in New York City. And that was made. I know exactly where it was made, when it was made, who touched it. And when I mean touch it, is just, who packed it. And then, blah, blah, blah. That's cool. People only see packages of products. They don't understand that. They probably understand, but they don't get to see the interesting details that went into just delivering that greatness or that horrible product, whatever it is. So I think that's the most amazing part that brings us always back from those really hard moments of wanting to quit.
And on that note, you talked about how much you travel, how you are grinding all the time. You're cranking out a lot of content. You're meeting people, creating community, and just constantly involved in the social economy around your business. So how do you manage the burnout for yourself with all of the demands?
Well, I think it's important to note, like, as good as storytelling is, it has a side that can cause a lot of potential issue. If you get very involved in it, you're always like, how do I get this content out? Is it real? Is it not real? Like, how do you do it? So I think for me, like, at least I had a burnout. I had a real burnout 2.5 years ago, and it was horrible. And I had a breakdown, and I just didn't know who I was. And it sounds weird to say, but like, I was so off track because I was doing so much content. I was traveling 140 flights a year. I was always out there chasing the dopamine and the next thing. And it just never ends, by the way. It can just keep going. The world moves, and there's opportunities, and there's this, that. And then I took a time off, and I realized that, like, hey, like, it's okay to take a rest. It's okay to take a break and just refine yourself. And I did. And I spent 42 days taking time off. And I'm grateful that my partners were supportive, and my business was supportive for that. I came back strong, and I came back to listen to my body. So I know when I'm tired or when I'm feeling lethargy. I call it lethargy when you don't, like, no more creative motivation. You don't want to do anything. You're not excited. You don't feel excited. It's time to take a second to just, what's going on? And, I always tell people entrepreneurship is not, there's a lot of glory to it and a lot of excitement, but that's like 5%, 10%. 90% is a lot of fires and hardship. I call it loneliness, hardship, and punches. But you just get back up.
Yeah.
But there's a time where you don't have the energy to get back up, so you need to repair or recharge to get back up. And I think that's the most critical part of this journey. So yeah, do I travel a lot? Yes. I figured out little kinks when I traveled, like picking up snacks at a certain, grocery which are healthier that I could bring with me along the day, or staying at certain locations where are more wellness focused, that I actually feel more comfortable rather than trying to hustle. And I've seen a huge ROI on that.
Huge.
But I definitely am really tired, and I just believe in the vision. So like. Yeah. Whether that's crazy or not, it could be delusional. I don't know. I wake up every day, and I really believe that it's possible. And I also get to meet people like, like yourself and others, and I've become friends with that, not just are for business, potentially could be for life, and you don't know. And that's what makes the world exciting, is the unknown and the serendipity.
Yeah.
So that's why I love it. And I think I've already done, like, this is what, 2025 already. I've already done like 60 flights. So it's a lot, but I'm slowing down for the summer or whenever, I don't know when it's coming out, but I'm slowing down for like a couple months. And there's something about physically showing up that makes a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And I've noticed that the ROI on that too has been 10x the idea of not showing up. So I don't know, I'm kind of addicted to it.
Well, let's build on that then. So what does that ROI look like? What is so beneficial to you in your philosophy on showing up, being in person, having this real world interface with the people with your customers, with your distributors, with your community, with people.
People. The world's run with people, right? So think about that. That's number one. Number two is the ROI has been like heavy duty investment in the organization that with people we love. Media articles from TV to print to and this is all organic, unpaid. And another part is new team members, hiring new people, building a team that's with epic performers, right? And meeting them on the journey. And then last but not least is making as much noise for the actual product in itself, so that people go and buy it in the retailers. I think that the return about a Rainmaker, what I do, is not direct. It's not like your ROI is going to be tomorrow or today for me and the person. It's actually going to happen over a period of time. And you got to be willing to be patient and see things through it. Like, I spent time on the road 2.5 years ago or 3 years ago meeting a bunch of different investors, and we built a relationship for 2 years, and I kept going back to hang out with them. And guess what? They ended up being one of our lead investors in our last round. And that's because they kept showing up. Yes, the business model had to make sense and all that stuff, but guess what? The relationship was so strong. There was so much trust built prior to even due diligence or anything like that it was a lot easier to get the deal done. So that's how the ROI works of being a Rainmaker. And I think, digital is great, but at the end of the day, there's something about human to human that goes so deep and has the potential for anything to happen. And I'm a huge advocate for serendipity and showing up and doing it in your way, and not being scared to get on a plane, even if the flight's 12 hours for one meeting. You might not get anything out of it, but you never know. You might get something massive out of it. It takes one person, one person listening, one person to change your life or your business forever, for good or for bad. But I'm hoping that it's good for good.
Well, and even if you didn't get anything tangible or monetary out of that interaction, you probably learned something in the experience of just being there with someone, even if they don't end up being an investor.
We're in New York right now. The energy's wild. I woke up this morning, I had a meeting, and I was walking, and I got a creative idea as I was walking. I was looking at the energy of people, just like they were hustling. And I was like, I got something fired up, called my partner, boom. What if I wasn't here? I don't know if that idea would have come. Like, this is what I'm trying to say is, like, invest in showing up. And it's costly for small businesses, it's costly for large businesses. But at the end of the day, give yourself the best chance. And the way to give yourself the best chance is to see as much serendipity, so as many opportunities as you can that is focused on what you're doing. And just take care of yourself as you're doing it.
That's huge.
Most important thing.
Yeah. As you're all trying to scale Midday Squares, that self-care, that investment in yourself, that investment in interfacing with people in person. How are you thinking about sustaining that as you scale, and where do you find the opportunities to outsource, or what would you even consider on the table for an outsourced department?
So 100%. So self-care is definitely part of the journey because it gives us the energy to keep going. We've been building our team internally. That is phenomenal. They are the all-stars. They are running the business. My partners and I are basically the advocates. And we're comfortable. Like, we're becoming more irrelevant every day in the day-to-day operation. From a standpoint of relationships and noise and all that stuff, very relevant, innovation, all that stuff. So number one is hire a great team. You can't do things without a great team. It's impossible. Second is, as we scale, we are outsourcing certain things. Some things like, content was done all internally prior. Now we have content internally, and we have externals that work with us on specialty things that can help us with a really cool campaign that we're doing, which we didn't do in the past, that we will work with them, with our internal team and the external teams. Packaging, we have some designers that, we work with that are really cool, that we're launching new innovation on design. So we've learned that, like, as we continue to scale, we need help in certain things that we're not good at or that we don't have internally. instead of it just being all in one, we now work with others that supplement our internal team. So that's kind of like the next journey. I think the next 3 to 5 years will be a lot of externals that we work with while our internal team manages that.
And so, let's continue that thread, as we look to the future. What else is on your 3 to 5 year radar to keep growing the business, or goals, even if they're not necessarily tangible goals, that feels good? I mean, you talk so much about this being, it's a passion project, clearly, and you are so invested as humans and having that connection to the brand. So what does the future look like from a tangible business perspective and a fulfillment perspective?
So number one, we expanding output, the max amount of output we can do in our facilities. So obviously without products, you have nothing at the end of the day. So that's number one over the 3-year game plan, is to get our second line fully operating. Number two is, we call it the road to 100 million, is just get this thing to 100 million of trailing 12, which is a lot of chocolate if you think about it.
It's a lot of chocolate.
It's a lot of chocolate bars in 1 year eaten. So that's another goal next 2 years. And then the last is like continue to build up this team. So, and make us as irrelevant as possible. And what I mean by irrelevant is not that we're not useful. We're very added value, but we built this business to sustain itself over the period of time, not to rely on the three of us, my partners and I, to be there, right? We're now advocates and brand ambassadors and innovators. But at the end of the day, we realize that every stage you need to build the team for it. You need to have the people that can help you execute. We have experts that are way better than us than in most of the things, but we want to play just to our superpowers, all of us. So we're slowly moving more and more into those things. And I think the future is going to be, again, who is the best storyteller, and how can brands relate at a deep level and emotionally connect? And then also, build products that are truly innovative. So when I say innovative, it's not copycat products. It's actually something that's different, something that the consumer feels is, there was a lot of work put into this goes for food specifically. It goes into my mouth and wow, that's a crazy different experience. And that builds a lot of consumer trust. And once you have the consumer trust, you have an ability to communicate with them. You have an ability to, work with them and have a community that they get support. But also it gives you the best chance at building, if you believe you could build the next biggest biggest company in whatever you're doing, that's what we're trying to do. And we do it in 3-year stunts. We go on 3 years, we reevaluate everything and what's the next 3 years look like. And then that's how we follow it. It's like there's a document that says exactly what we need to do. And yeah, as long as we're having fun, I think that's why we'll keep going. The moment we stop having fun is the moment you won't see us part of the business.
That's a great metric. I think the fun and the joy.
Tired is fine, but fun and excited. I think it's going to be tiring, anything you're doing while you build something meaningful. But if you're not having fun while doing it for periods of time, you live one life and it's short. Whether it could be 100 years, 200, who knows how long? I don't know, 200 years, but 100 years, it could be 10 years. You don't know. So what I've noticed is, if you're not doing something fun in your life, then don't do it. Because it's a privilege to exist. And so for us, we're trying to make sure we're having fun.
It's a privilege to exist. I love that.
I like that too.
That's cool. Yeah. Surprising himself here. That'll do it. Well, just being mindful of time here, I want to leave the folks with one piece of advice and where we can find you.
Okay, you can find us on our website, www.middaysquares.com. Or any retailer, a lot of retailers in the refrigerated section. Go on our website, you can see the retailers. And then a piece of advice I would say is, if you're, at least to anyone that's building a business or even within a company, there's going to be a lot of noise to tell you to do things a certain way. You got to block it out. You trust your gut and your instincts. That's usually the right answer. Not all the time, but most of the time it knows it. And if you want to win, you need to trust your gut and trust those instincts and block out whatever noise is out there, because they're not in your shoes. The consultant's not in your business. They might be helping your business, but they're not living through the day-to-day emotions. And I think that that's kind of what I wish I knew when I started my original journey of entrepreneurship 11 years ago with other businesses, was just not to listen to everything that happens. Take it in, but be very cautious. And I listened to everything and it got me bamboozled. And next thing you know, I failed because I didn't know what to do. I had this paralysis on ideas and execution. And everyone I speak to goes through a lot of similar types of things. And they, when you block out the noise, you're free.
I like it. Well, I hope you can continue to block out the noise and that you're heading on a path that is more fun and less tiring.
No, less caffeine.
Less caffeine, less caffeine. That's awesome. Well, thank you so much. This was a really great conversation. I appreciate you taking the time.
Appreciate you. Rock on. Woo!
Woo!
B2B Breakthrough is produced by Alibaba.com. To find out how Alibaba.com is empowering its customers with the tools, services, and resources they need to grow their business, visit Alibaba.com. And then make sure to search for B2B Breakthrough on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you find your podcasts. Make sure to follow us so you don't miss future episodes. On behalf of the team here at Alibaba.com, thanks for listening.